Acting as Attorney General, Greg Abbott has had a lot to say about guns in America, and he joins me now. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you.
The president today was in Minnesota and came out strongly again for a variety of different measures he wants to bring in through the Senate, through the House, to try and, as he puts it, curb gun violence in America. What was your reaction to what he said?
Well, it seems to be more show than reality, because it seems like on the very same day, the majority leader came out and said that they're not going to pass any assault weapons ban. And so it seems like he's working...
He didn't say they wouldn't pass. He said he'd take a look at it.
Well, I thought he made an announcement later today that he didn't think that the United States Senate on the Democrat side would pass an assault weapon ban. So it seems like the president is swimming against the tide of even his own party.
Let's go through some of these measures, because I want to see where there's common ground, and then we can argue about where there isn't. Do you support 100% background checks, universal background checks?
No, the problem that we have with regard to the background checks is the current background checks are not working. We're seeing so many violations of it that the federal officials are not enforcing.
But in principle, the principle of universal background checks, do you support that?
Well, the principle of ensuring that criminals and those who have mental issues do not get their hands on guns are very important. The problem
what about the principle of knowing who is buying guns in America? Because a lot of these people don't show the obvious mental dangers, if you like, until it's too late. What about just this principle of, if you buy a gun, even at a gun show, there's a record of it, and you have to have a background check.
And what I'm trying to tell you is that right now, if you go to a gun show, you will have a background check run. The important thing, though,
Actually,
Piers...
That's not true, though.
Here's the important thing.
You will in some cases, but the private trades that go on these gun shows, there's no records.
Which is a good point. I was hunting last month with a good friend in South Texas. I used a rifle that I would have liked to have purchased from him. Had he had to go through a background check on me, would have slowed down the purchase and would have hindered people like myself who may want to buy a gun from a friend. I wanted to sell one of my pistols to a friend of mine. Should I have to run a background check on my friend I've known for more than a decade just because I want to sell him a pistol?
But you can guarantee that every single person at a gun show in Texas is going to be in the future of sound mental health and isn't going to suddenly develop either criminal tendencies, suicidal tendencies, or murderous tendencies. Can you guarantee that?
What we need to do is to enforce the laws and take measures to crack down on violence, to help those with mental challenges, to put the criminals behind bars and prevent criminals from getting a hold of guns in the first place.
Would you support a ban on magazines that have more than 10 rounds?
Absolutely not.
Why?
We don't, because look at the Texas border itself. We have more than 1,000 miles of border. We have thousands of ranchers who live up and down that border, and frequently we have drug cartels coming across the border. Also,
how many drug cartel barons and their operatives have attacked people in Texas?
We have drug cartel members who have shot at law enforcement, who have hit law enforcement with bullets.
Texan civilians, I'm talking about.
My point is, if they are so brazen that they are going to shoot law enforcement officers, the innocent ranchers have to be fearful, and these ranchers may be hundreds of miles away from any law enforcement.
Has any Texan rancher, to your knowledge, ever been confronted with a Mexican drug cartel?
Absolutely. There are plenty of stories. Every month you'll have...
There are shootouts all over Texas involving Mexican drug cartels?
Well, you said,
Texan farmers?
Yeah, you said confronted. The cartels and the drug dealers are crossing the border, confronting ranchers on an ongoing basis in the state of Texas. They deserve, under the Second Amendment, to have the ability to meet force with force, which is what the Second Amendment guarantees. And so these ranchers need to be able to protect themselves. Let me add one more thing. You're in Houston right now. There are members of the vicious gang MS-13 right here in Houston, as well as other deadly gangs. People here in Houston have a right to defend themselves from the deadly MS-13 gang.
Do you agree with the fact that you can't legally buy in most places in America machine guns, warfare-style machine guns?
That's been banned.
Do you support that?
Well, that's a ban that's in place. And
do you support it?
We have been fine with that ban.
Why?
However,
why are you fine with it? Why doesn't that breach your constitutional rights?
Well,
because the military can have them, and I thought that your interpretation, unless I'm wrong, is you should have whatever everybody else has.
Well, the interpretation of the Second Amendment, the reason why it was passed in the first place, is to allow Americans to defend themselves from either government forces or other forces that endanger their lives.
But if the government attacked you, it would be with the United States military, who would all be armed with machine guns. They are banned from civilian use, yet you support that ban, but you're not prepared to even think about a ban on military-style rifles still in circulation and still legal.
Well, it depends on what you mean by military style. A lot of people use this phrase military style, when in reality it's nothing more than a semi-automatic weapon that is used even for deer hunting. Some people categorize that as military style.
In this very gun store, I can buy an AR-15, I can buy a slide device over there, which will allow me, in semi-automatic mode, to fire up to 300 rounds a minute. What is your definition of an assault rifle, given I can legally buy that here and kill 300 people in 1 minute?
Well, first, I think that any Texan has a right to be able to purchase one of those weapons. When it comes to talking about limiting our rights, we need to have the right to defend ourselves whenever anyone tries to attack us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Piers.
Coming next, I'll talk to two people who believe that concealed weapons and the NRA save lives. Your friend was basically trying to help another armed serviceman who'd come out, who was suffering from this very frequent problem now that so many ex-soldiers have, post-traumatic stress disorder, and it ended tragically. What did you feel when you heard about this in terms of what Chris was trying to achieve?
I didn't, I guess I'm still in total disbelief that Chris is gone, and I think that everyone that knew him feels the same way. Chris, I personally don't know the exact details of what happened, and I'm sure that more information will come out. But Chris, even before the book, even before he was famous, devoted a considerable amount of time to helping veterans, whether they were disabled, whether they were suffering from traumatic stress, or just regular guys. And he would take people out go hunting, go fishing, and he would also just talk with people who'd been back from the war. Really, he devoted, that was really what his life, or a big part of what his life was about.
And particularly awful in the sense that I'm at a big Texas gun range now. It feels very safe here. Safety is clearly paramount, and everyone around here knows how to use weapons and takes the safety very seriously. So even in a place like this, Chris, who is one of the great snipers in military history, lost his life in such awful circumstances.
Well, we don't know the exact details of how he died. I have been at the ranch where he died, and I would say that, first of all, it's a little different than where you are. It's a very large place, and quite honestly, they could have been doing any number of things. But Chris Kyle would not have subjected another person to a dangerous situation, so I'm sure that he considered where he was to be relatively safe.
Well, it's an appalling tragedy. The alleged killer is a former Marine called Eddie Ray Routh. He's now in custody, and I guess we'll find out more when he comes to trial. Jim DeFelice, my great sympathies to you on losing your friend, and America's lost a true hero.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And now back to our big gun debate here. Joining me now is Texas State Senator Dan Patrick, who's introduced a bill to allow concealed firearms in university campuses, and Ben Ferguson, a conservative radio host who was the victim of a gun crime himself and says he's glad the NRA is looking out for him. Welcome to you both, gentlemen.
Good to be here.
I wanted to start off by giving you my reaction, I guess, to the guns that I fired earlier, because I've had a lot of people say to me, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what these guns do. Actually, the AR-15 is just another form of gun, nothing. I was pretty shocked, I'll be honest with you, when I got into this range and began to fire the AR-15. And then it began to, you can see the pictures here again. I started off quite slowly, and then it began to really rapid fire. And to hear that, if someone who knows what they're doing could fire between 60, 70, 80 bullets a minute, how anyone could not classify this as an assault weapon is completely beyond me. Explain to me.
It's a personal defense weapon, Piers, and the reason people love that weapon...
Against what?
Against a lot of things. We live in an area, for example, and we've seen the thin veil of civility torn back in a hurricane, the aftermath. We see looters go into a neighborhood in the aftermath, whether it's New Orleans or it was Long Island. We know that in our country, we don't think terrible things like a bomb, a dirty bomb would be set off in a major city, but it could happen. No one thought 9/11 would happen. And so people have this weapon not only to defend themselves against an individual intruder that would come into their home.
But if you strip out here's the thing. Yes. If you strip out the AR-15 from the equation, and you take all the guns out, the Senator Feinstein, for example, wants to take out, you're still left with wait a minute. You're still left with 2,200 guns you can legally buy.
And the problem is you're obsessing over one gun that a bad human being has used a couple of times. No, hold on. Let me finish. Because hold on a second. Have you ever
shooters in America?
And guess what? The last mass shooting that I could have been a victim of, it wasn't an AR-15. You're obsessed with an AR-15. The guy who put a gun to my head. Have you ever had a gun to your head?
No.
Have you ever had a man look at you in the eyes and say, "I'm going to blow your head off"?
No.
With expletives while grinning. I had a gun to defend myself. I did not have an AR-15. He didn't have an AR-15.
Why would you have needed an AR-15 in that situation?
You're missing the point of what I'm saying. I'm saying that you can claim anything is an assault weapon when it's in the bad hands of a bad person.
It's not
the gun used that night was not on the special list that the senator wants to have out there, the list of guns. But you know what? That gun that night was just as dangerous to my life.
Sure.
When he pulled the trigger, not once, not twice, not two, not three times. And this is my point.
Make your point.
The 10 bullets that you say, why not have a clip of 10? I had a clip that had 13. When the police showed up, you know how many bullets were left in my gun? 1. I would have been too negative that. I would have run out of bullets before I was able to save my life and save my best friend's life. It's a big deal, though.
Okay, listen. I understand the need to defend yourself in a country.
I don't think so.
Wait a minute. Let me clarify.
And you don't know how many bullets you're going to need to defend yourself or your family.
I understand.
I needed more than 10, Piers.
I understand. Please let me speak. I understand in a country that has over 300 million firearms in circulation, people feel the need to have a firearm to defend themselves.
That's not why
of course
I feel like
they
I
do.
need it, though.
What I don't understand, and Senator, I want you to explain to me again, because I may be stupid. I don't know what it is.
No, you're not stupid. You just don't understand the American culture. You don't understand.
I'm trying to understand
that
American
liberty
culture.
and freedom does not guarantee safety. Our founding fathers understood
that.
that.
Tyranny, genuinely.
But, no, I don't feel tyranny, but I do believe that, again...
Do you believe your government is going to overrun Texas using the U.S. military? Because that's what tyranny would mean.
What I said earlier, Piers, was that the reason people like the AR-15, and I have an AR-15, my wife shoots the AR-15, it is a weapon that you can fire multiple times to defend yourself. And what I meant about the Long Island looters aftermath, or New Orleans, we see how quickly people can turn against each other. Heaven forbid, again, we have a dirty bomb in a city and the food supply disappears and the water supply disappears and you have to defend, you have 4 children to defend your family. I want to be able to defend my family, and I have a right under the Constitution.
But nobody felt the need in New York. I was there when Hurricane Sandy happened. Nobody felt the need to take an AR-15 to blow away looters. It wasn't like that on the ground.
Looting?
Huh?
Were they looting?
There was limited looting.
Okay, but don't act as if New Orleans looting was the same thing as what's happening on a beautiful place in New Jersey with totally different clientele of people.
Question for you.
You had socioeconomic conditions that were totally different.
He cited Sandy, not me. Let me put this to you. What is your answer to the parents at Sandy Hook who had their children blown to pieces about how you are personally, through the instrument of your radio show, going to try and make America a safer place than it was?
Simple. First of all, we got to be realistic that there are always, whether it be in America or in the UK or anywhere in the world, crazy people. I want to make sure that there's somebody at every school to be able to protect and defend children, because we know now...
Armed teachers or armed guards?
Either one. And I'll let the people... Hold on, but let me say this. It depends on what the people in that place want, in that city.
Do you believe the NRA agrees with this?
Do I believe that the NRA agrees with... I don't know what the NRA agrees with me or not. I just don't want kids to be safe.
We just had a...
Because here's what the NRA say now. They agree with you now. Here's what Wayne LaPierre said in in fact, it was just after Columbine. Watch this.
First, we believe in absolutely gun-free, zero-tolerance, totally safe schools.